welcome to the Brain Scrub and Happy New Year 2025. Today is January 19th, my first episode of 2025, and this year is about new beginnings, letting go of the old and venturing out into the new. And there's a couple of things happening in my life. They're exciting things, and today I'm going to talk about one of those things that's happening in my life, and that is moving forward and emotionally detaching from my need and want and desire and emotional attachment to my alienated son. I certainly hope he comes back into my life, but hope gets me nowhere other than more stressed out. And I saw a video on how to emotionally let go of things, as well as some Carl Jung videos, and it really enlightened me in what I'm not doing and how I need to take this a level deeper. And I wish I would have seen this video like 7 years ago, but everything happens for a reason, and this is just part of my journey. And that's the gift in all this, is I'm learning so much about myself, and I'm stepping into my authentic self, which is wonderful to do, and so much easier as I get older. My life becomes better and better and better, and this year will be likely no different. But I also want to talk about briefly how this ties in directly to the fact that Donald Trump, the next president of the United States, is coming into power tomorrow, and what he's created for the world, and what Donald Trump definitely is masterful at, is creating fear and stress amongst other people through a lack of predictability, a lack of control, and a lack of the say in the matter of things. And many countries, including my own Canada, are worried about what's going to happen with everything that we've done. And not saying the world is perfect, it's far from perfect, but there's this not knowing. And welcome to part of the feeling of parental alienation is not knowing, not having a sense of control, being in a state of fear, a stress response, which can lead to chronic stress. And that's why I do this podcast, is to share with you my journey, and also to provide some tools and techniques that are helping me in achieving a better life. Now, it's not all associated to parental alienation. Of course, as you know, in my episodes, I talk about other things, and by no means am I an expert. Just want to remind the listeners, I am just somebody out there trying different things, and I do this for a living as well. I train people on how to be better communicators, resolve conflict, influence, all these other things, soft skills that are required in organizations. Love doing my job. And that's part of the reason that I'm passionate about this stuff. Plus, as you know, I've been through a lot of self-awareness work myself. So yeah, Donald Trump's coming in tomorrow, and who knows what's going to happen. But I need to let go of that, because I can't control what he's going to do or what he's going to say. I need to focus on me. And that's another gift of 2025, is I am putting more focus on who I am, how to live better, how to connect more with others, because I've been very independent through my entire life, and I'm ready to create interdependence amongst others. And I've obviously been doing that here where I live on Vancouver Island, with my community, with my wife, with friends and family. However, I need more of that. I need more of this community integration. Now, without going too far off track, I want to bring it back to emotionally detaching from somebody. This is likely going to be part one of a series of podcast episodes that I do, because this is a pretty heavy subject, and I've done a bit of work around it. And I'm going to take you through some of the steps that I learned on this one video about how to emotionally detach. And it was fascinating for me, because my son is a lot like me. In many respects, he is doing a lot of things that I probably would have done as well. And knowing that makes me realize that I'm kind of rejecting me in a way. And he is just, in the grand scheme of things, my son. He is a human being trying to live his best life, doing what he can, working through all this stuff that he had to go through with my ex-wife and I. And he has his issues just like I have my issues, and he's on a journey. And he just needs some time rather to find himself, as I did. I became very independent, did everything on my own. And eventually, when I was in my early 30s, I realized I need to work on myself. And he might be the same way. And then you'll start discovering, you know what, these people in my life were meaningful to me, and I've taken them the wrong way, and I processed them the wrong way. But he has to find that journey himself. The challenge with alienation is, as an alienated parent, and I'm sure other alienated parents go through this as well, is we're attached to the fact that we ought to be in our child's life. They are part of us. We made them. And therefore, attaching meaning to that it means that they need to be there. I need to see them. I need to be part of their evolution. I need to help them out. I need to do all these different things. That identity, those needs are gone. Bye-bye. They may come back, they may not. And the thing that I'm realizing with the more research I do is I am now 100% sure that this would qualify as a complete alienation case based on everything that I'm hearing and everything that I'm seeing, which means it's not really about me. And sadly, I'm the victim in all this, and as is he, but it's not about me. There's things I did and did not do, yes, but I'm dealing with a power that I can't work with. It's like trying to tell Donald Trump that's the wrong thing that you're doing. It's not going to work. Like, he has this ego, my assumption, that's driving a lot of this. He doesn't really care what happens to others. It's more about himself and proving himself. And there's going to be a lot of destruction, not physical destruction perhaps, but mental destruction and challenges in economies because of one person's reign to power and wanting to control everything else. And this is my perception of what is going on, is I cannot battle that. There's no way. There is no ability to problem solve. That's gone. And that was never there in the first place, because when you're dealing with somebody like a Trump, again, they think the way they think. That's what they do. And I can't reason with that. So what I can do is, instead of giving power and control to my son and my ex-wife on my life and how I'm living my life and how I feel about myself, I need to say, in essence, I need to let go of you, and I need to let go of my emotional attachment. And you're just living your best life, and I need to live my best life. But it's a big message for me to focus on me, not trying to help other people out, which I've done my entire life. So in the video, they talk about different things. First of all, that we all have things that we need to challenge in our life. We have internal patterns of behavior, which means that we have learned to be a certain way throughout our life. And those behaviors, when you become alienated, have a part in this. But I also need to understand what those behaviors are and what those patterns are that I need to start working on and shifting. And it's hard to change old patterns. Like, for example, put your pen in your other hand, your non-dominant hand, and write out your full name. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to take more focus. It's going to take more energy. It's going to be frustrating. It may not look that good. But that's kind of how difficult it is to change patterns of behavior. So we need to understand, what are those parts of us? What are those habits that I need to work on, or those patterns and habits that I'm projecting onto the other individual that I'm trying to let go of. And I'll get into what that means in a moment. We all have emotional needs as well. So that's number 2. We have a need to be happy, joyful. Maybe we have some needs that lock us into being in a fearful state. So for me, that's definitely it. I grew up with a lot of fear. I feared my father. I feared my mom in some respects. I feared disease. I feared all these different things. I was like in a state of fear. I didn't know what was going on. So what I had to do is I had to try to control everything. And that's how I felt safe. So that's my emotional need, is I need a sense of control. If I don't have a sense of control, then I have some fear, I have some anxiety and sadness, and I'm disgusted in myself when I do that. But these are my emotional needs. So in order to have strong relationships, I need to work on that. And that makes me feel safe and happy and joyful. However, that's my emotional need, and I need to let go of that. So if you're noticing, this is all about you. Forget about the other person, but the other person is giving you some information about yourself that you need to look at, and we're going to go through that process. There's also our unmet desires are part of this, that we all have desires. There's something that's unmet in my life that this relationship is or has provided me, and that is that I belong. I have a desire to belong, to help other people, to influence, to share, to play, to be goofy, all these different things, but I need other people there to help me do that. And my work allows me to do that. The community I'm in allows me to do that. And the unmet need with my son doesn't allow me to do that. And I need that from him. And so to understand that. So essentially, your alienated child may be filling a void within yourself. And this is a time to really find out what that void is. Something is missing within you that you need another to fulfill. And again, it's so important, as hard as it is, to let go of attachment to being a parent. You, as an alienated parent, are not a parent anymore. A parent has a definition of many different things, and without contact with a child, you are not a parent. You have no influence, you have no power, you have no control. They don't want to see you for whatever reason. There's no relationship there, and one must detach from that. Even though it's wrong, morally, ethically, it doesn't fulfill or meet our human obligations. Like, there's so much wrong with it, but it is a force that it's very difficult to reckon with. And if you've been through alienation, you understand where I'm coming from. So again, your alienated child or children provides you a source of something within yourself that you may lack. Essentially, they need to be in your life to complete you. In order for you to be happy, in order for me to be happy fully, I need to have my son in my life. Not going to happen right now, at least, right? It's a deception as well, because I'm deceiving myself by believing that he needs to be in my life. So this emotional attachment is something our mind's making up, that it's needed. And as a result, I've been struggling for 8 years to try to get him into my life because I have this unmet need. So here are some questions to ask yourself as you begin to emotionally detach from someone. First of all, what are you trying to seek for yourself and for the other person in this relationship? What is it you need? What are you trying to get? For me, it's that I'm lovable, that I belong, that I am valued, that I can show you what I've accomplished, that I can explore with you, that I can see your grandkids, that I can be known as a great father who had an amazing relationship with their child, which I didn't have with my dad. It's to prove something, that I am good enough, that I am worthy. That's what I'm trying to prove. Look at me. Look at us. Look what we're doing. Look what we're seeing. And so this need that I have to be noticed is what I am seeking from my son. The next part is to think about, what emotional void am I trying to fill? The emotional void I'm trying to fill is fear, and happiness and joy and contentment, that in order for me to be happy, my family needs to function. And that was never happening to me as a child. My family was very dysfunctional. There was no contentment. So that ties back to my unmet needs, that I need to have people that get along, that will work through things so they can have fun, so they can feel safe, so there's a certain element of control and predictability, which is going to reduce stress. And that's what I need. That's the void I'm trying to fill, is deep sadness when that does not exist. And I was sad for a large part of my life, very sad about things, like not feeling like I fit in, being bullied, being ridiculed, not having any confidence, being shy. I was very, very sad. And there's still times today where I notice I have a deep, profound sadness, and the emotional void. By having him in my life, I don't have to be sad because my family is perfect and not happening, right? So I get that's the void. What is at the root of my attachment? And that's number 3. I think the root of it is rejection. I felt rejected for much of my life. And as a result, I try and try and try. And I try to make connections. I try to show my worth. I try to show my value, which creates anxiety. But I'm always trying to fit in and say the right things and do the right things and be that type of human being that people want to connect with. And by doing that, I'm not being authentic. It increases my stress levels. And that's at the root of this, that I feel rejected by my son. I am being rejected by my son. And that is a deep, deep wound that has generational history as well. I'm not going to get into what my family went through, but you can imagine during World War II, when people were bombing where my parents lived in Germany, you can imagine what a child must go through when people are bombing you, that the world might be rejecting me, which is a big burden to carry. And there's many victims in that whole war. And I don't want to get into World War II and what happened, but one sometimes needs to think about what is a child going through. And of course, with the concentration camps and everything, can you imagine survivors of that, what they're going through? The world hates me. Even as a German child that grew up in the war, the world hates me. I'm not worthy, this or whatever. And I'm carrying that pattern of behavior into my life and this isn't in all cases, but this is kind of the stuff that we can learn from and then grow from in terms of what's the root of my attachment. That again is a sense of belonging. I'm not belonging. And I feel trapped by that. But by understanding the root of your attachment, you can let go of the trap. You can take your foot out of that stronghold and know it's not you. And to let go of that, because that can hold us there. And if we discover what holds us back, we can move forward. If we pull up that anchor, our ship is going to move. But if we don't know what that anchor is holding on to, good luck. And I've had personal experience trying to get one of my friends' boats out of a bay once. And we were anchored there and we're trying to pull up the anchor. It wasn't moving. And it was a struggle. And then eventually we had to cut the anchor. So cut your anchor. Just cut it and move on. So for me, he's my source of feeling like I belong. And when I focus in on that I need to belong, it just creates that attachment to become stronger and stronger and stronger. And it influences how we see ourselves, how we see others, how we see our child. Like we create all these different scripts about who we are and who we're not, who they are and who they're not, that I'm not good enough, I'm hard to be with, that I need to try harder. And we keep holding on to that, and I keep holding on to that versus just letting go. One part of this that I found very powerful was to look at the qualities that I see in him that are in myself that I'm projecting onto him. And this was profound for me because these are things that are missing in my life. And by having him in my life or seeing him, I'm seeing these qualities that I see within myself, but I don't actually connect with in myself. Like they're there, but he brought them out in me. And this is where I started to realize, like, wow, it's no wonder. Like, I am so much like him. And I used to be like him. And I've lost a lot of that. The sense of goofiness, this free spirit, this, he has anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety. He cares deeply for other people. He wants other people to be happy. I always wanted that. He's fun. He jokes around. I always joked around and had fun. He cares about helping others out and being a leader. Like, this showed up in his school environment where he was the instigator of things. He made things happen. I do the same thing. Like, wow, he and I are so similar. And I would love to be able to share that with him and bring that out together with him. So what I'm actually doing is, when he was younger, I found it so difficult to be around that, be around the anxiety, be around the fear, the constant need for attention. And I was essentially rejecting myself, because that's exactly what I did as a child. I grew up in an environment that felt unsafe, and I know he felt unsafe at his mother's house as well. We've heard situations about that she would become abusive. So as a result, what do you do as a child? You try to make everybody happy. And then I was trying to make everybody happy. And it just became a bit of a power struggle. And yeah, again, the biggest thing here was just making that realization that he was like a mini me, essentially. And I didn't welcome him in. I struggled with him. And I struggle with me sometimes. This was the aha moment for me, the mind-blowing, boom, wow, I do this moment. And now, what do I do with that? I embrace those qualities within myself. I move forward. I bring out my goofy side. I bring out my adventurous side. And I've been doing this. And I learn to embrace me. One must love themselves first before loving other people authentically. Like, I'm number one, my wife's number two, and my friends are number three, and my family's number three. And my son, of course, he would be number three as well, but he's not around right now. So to focus my efforts on what I can influence and I have control over, versus expending energy on what I don't. Because the other part of this is to look at, what is it that rejected child is causing you? What are they doing? Well, then I started seeing his shadow self, and I see what I've experienced in the relationship with his mother, what he's learned, and I keep on trying to chase him. But what I'm doing is I'm getting silence back. There's no problem solving. There's nothing good about you. You're the problem. Threatening. Don't call me or I'll never see you again. Like, these things, I was essentially being abused, in my point of view, by my son, which he learned from his mom, which was used against me, which was so hurtful. Like, being called different things, not responding to me, wanting to see me, then saying, no, I don't want to see you. It was such a mind, you know what, and very, very upsetting. When I listened to his podcast, the things he would say about me, my family, it was so destructive. One thing I learned about with Donald Trump, and I'm not comparing my son to Donald Trump, but years ago in the Republican Party, Newt Gingrich was teaching people how to really offend other people and get attention through using hate speech and hate words. Like, you're nasty, you're disgusting. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm hearing from him on his podcast about other people. And I feel sad for him that he's in that state, but it's so hurtful to hear these words. But he's learned that. That's not his natural self, just like others. We learn how to be and how to deal with stuff, and that's what he's learning. But by me trying to pursue resolving this problem with him and creating a relationship, there's only one person who's getting hurt. It's me. Now, he doesn't understand the eventual impact on him of not having his extended family there or his dad and things like that. He'll probably go through his own hurt and pain, and I'll definitely be there for him when that happens. But right now I need to move on. So it's important to see them as they are, and what it can be as well as a self-fulfilling prophecy, that if I feel that I've been rejected, my brain actually craves more of that, because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to being rejected. So chase them so you can be rejected again. But every time I try to reach out to him, I'm just being rejected. And my brain's saying, there you go, Glenn, you're a reject, right? You don't fit in, and I'm going to prove it to you. So to notice that pattern of behavior and just stop. And so for me, I've been catching myself now where if I go down that path, I say, Glenn, as a third party talking to Glenn, look what you're doing. Stop it. Which is creating a new pattern in my mind. This is called pattern interruption, where you notice yourself going down the same path and then you decide to stop yourself and do something differently, so that my ultimate goal for 2025 is self-compassion and acceptance. My son did what he did, and he's a reflection of me. It's time to move on. Focus on my life. Focus on my health. Focus on my community, because I don't need my son to be happy. It'd be great, but it's not going to happen. And there's no pursuit of happiness. There just is. There is contentment. So be content with yourself. Figure out what's going on with you. Emotionally detach and focus on what really matters, and that is your life. Now, it's important never to give up and to reach out once in a while. But I have to let go of the mission of building that relationship, because I have no control over it. I just need to go with the flow, and this will allow me to be at peace. And that's what this year is about, is being at peace, continuing a strong and wonderful life that I have where I am at, in my community, with my wife. So when, and hopefully when, he comes back one day, I'll be there for him and be that grounded, loving person that he needs. Thanks for listening.